exploring how we can master ourselves by looking at how authors and experts say it is possible, with your host, Shashiti Basu.
Welcome to Season 3, Episode 92 of How to Be with me, Shashiti, as your timid presenter, guiding you through life's tricky topics and skills by reading through the best books out there. Money is a conversational topic, dogged by stigma, shame, and fear of judgment. A pervasive societal belief exists that financial struggles reflect personal failures, leading individuals to internalize their problems and avoid open discussions. Despite living in a capitalist world, we struggle with talking about money, perhaps because we have been taught to equate wealth with worth. So why are we afraid to talk about money? Here's Phoebe Ellis, who is Head of Operations at Thrive Money, set up by the team at First Wealth, which helps to improve financial education and break down the taboos around money with a focus on women and younger people.
29 million UK adults don't feel comfortable talking about money, and 1 in 10 would prefer to talk to their parents about sex and their finances. No matter how uncomfortable we may feel about money, we can't deny that it matters and it really impacts us all. Right now, as much of the UK grapples with a heavy cost of living crisis, it has never been so important to break the mold and get talking. Most of us are struggling, most of us are learning, and most of us keep it to ourselves. So by refraining from money talk, we just exacerbate the negative impact on our mental health. We feel more stressed, we feel more alone, and we feel more anxious. But we're not alone. In fact, 92% of us have been affected by the rise in the cost of living. When nearly half of the UK get their financial education online, we need to start thinking about the information we consume and put out. Because to feel the full benefit of defying the odds and talking about money, we need the right information. And that's why Thrive Money exists. We help to make those conversations easier, more accessible by providing free, chartered, expert-driven financial education to our community. We need to challenge the stigma and get talking.
Our first book is edited by Rebecca Walker, who was chosen as one of Time magazine's 50 Future Leaders of America, making her one of the most influential leaders of her generation. She has made a substantial contribution to the global conversation about identity, power, culture, and the evolution of the human family through books, lectures, blogs, social networks, popular magazines, literary and academic journals, radio programs, film and television appearances, and content development. She graduated cum laude from Yale in 1992. She is the author of the memoirs Black, White and Jewish and Baby Love, the novel Our Day, a love story, and editor of the anthologies To Be Real, What Makes a Man, One Big Happy Family and Black Cool. Her writing has appeared in Glamour, The Washington Post, Book Forum, Bomb, Newsweek, Vibe, Real Simple, Modern Bride, Essence, More an Interview, among many other magazines and literary collections. She has appeared on Charlie Rose, Good Morning America, Oprah, Fresh Air, Bet, and dozens of blog sites and other media. She lives in LA, and we talked about her book in a very meta way, Women Talk Money, Breaking the Taboo. It was such an honour speaking with her, hence here is a snippet of our chat. But find the full interview on www.howtobe247.com or on the YouTube channel.
Well, I think that, there are many different reasons for this taboo. I think the idea of women talking about money fundamentally has been constructed as something that is problematic, undesirable. We should always keep it very secret because in many ways, when we talk about it, it means that we are closer to being in control of it. And there have been many, many social constructs, i.e. patriarchy, that, really do not want us to be in control of our own money and to spend money and make money in alignment with our internal goals and visions for ourselves and our communities. And so don't talk about it, because if you do, you are closer to being able to actually transform the world in which you live through that money. So that's one reason. I decided to do this book right after the big recession in 2008, when there were so many people, myself included, who were completely anxious about money, not sure where our next money was going to come from, losing jobs, losing houses, losing so much, and feeling this kind of existential angst around our own, sustainability. And one of the outcomes of that was that me and my cohort, all the different people in my life, especially my women friends and colleagues, started to talk very openly about money for the first time in my life. Everyone, because it was all not everything we had to talk about, but it was a big thing to talk about because it was always at the top of our minds. I mean, it still is, but then it was really just dire. And as a result of those communications or those conversations, a sort of greater intimacy opened and transparency and honesty. And I started to think, wow, each of us is really holding a powerful story about money, about what we learned about money from childhood and how that is shaping the way that we're moving through the world and our current relationship with money. And that by beginning to talk, we are supporting each other in forging new ways to relate to money. And we are bonding more deeply as a community. And so it occurred to me that this is an important conversation for women to have for themselves and their own personal evolution and with each other so that we can be more informed, more connected, and not sort of compartmentalizing our financial realities away, right? And really everything that happens in all consciousness raising groups, when you start talking about your body, when you start talking about your sexuality, when you start talking about your racial identity, you start to realize that you are connected to a community. You are not alone. You are not siloed. You are not isolated, which is what I think so many women think when they think about money. They think, oh, I didn't make enough money. I'm not good enough. I made so much money. There's something wrong with me based on the capitalist idea that I don't believe in. Whatever it is, they're carrying this idea that they're alone with their story, and they're not, And so I, as with all of my collections, have wanted to elevate and support all of these different voices in the name of building greater webs of support and consciousness. Absolutely. And I think that's part of why it's important to talk about it. I think that there is so little consciousness around how our conversations and experiences with money affect our relationships, so that, we have relationships with people of very different socioeconomic backgrounds, and we often speak different languages. We often have different approaches to the world, and we need to be able to understand where we come from so that we can find a place where we can connect, as opposed to being completely turned off by, well, this person is, super wealthy and is completely out of touch with my day-to-day reality, which I think, so many different people feel, or this person is really struggling at a level that I can't relate to, which is, both of those things are not true. There is an intersection that can be found and must be found, in order for us to bridge these unbelievable class disparities, socioeconomic realities, so that we can find ways to move together toward a more equitable world. And so, I wanted to, in each of these essays, look at that, exactly what you're saying. How has money affected the relationships that each of the writers has with people in their families and communities? So, there are pieces by incredible writers. I'm thinking Latham Thomas is one of my favorite writers and humans, and she's a maternal health leader and an incredible doula. And she writes about watching her mother go into the bank when she was very, very young. Her mother was a real estate agent, and her mother presented her commission check to the teller to be deposited. And the teller did not believe that a Black woman could come to the bank with, a check that was over, $5, but it was in the thousands of dollars, and called the police. And Latham's experience, her first experience of money, was to see her mother, a Black woman, criminalized for having money. And so she, held that story in the relationship with her mother, like intimately, and then also took that mythology, took that idea onto herself and integrated it into her own psychology, and had to work through this idea that being a Black woman and having money and creating generational wealth was something that was not only an act of resistance, but something that could be done, and that facing down that fear was an important part of her journey. Sonali wrote this incredible piece, first-generation immigrant, Indian immigrant, who writes about how her parents really tried to control her body through money, that she was a large person, a queer person, and they, withheld money from her because they wanted her to have gastric bypass. They wanted her to change her body to be more acceptable. And so her piece is about working through that moment, working through her relationships of anger and frustration and grief within her own family, and then also talking about the culture of first-generation immigrants in this country, the deep anxiety about sustainability again and viability. And so wanting your child, which is, you can understand, to be more, quote unquote, successful, more attractive, more, based on these standards that are inherently flawed and problematic. And so she's working through that within her family, and then also speaking to this larger community, everyone who has been manipulated financially by money in terms of, if you want to have a good job, if you want to have access to this place and that place, you must conform to a standard of beauty that is different from who you are. So she's really looking at how money is affecting her relationships, both with herself, her family, her community, and the global politic of the world. And every writer is doing that. Another, Neela Vaswani, who was a dear friend, writes about, being the caretaker of her husband who has cancer, and the way in which she's the monitor of the insurance payments, of the bills, and how it causes her to really reflect upon the role of women as caretakers and how we are expected to provide a level of care that is not compensated, but is invaluable, right, to our families. And she questions what it means to be a wife. And she has to sort of wrestle with how this discrepancy, or how these identities that she's inherited of a wife caretaker, really match up with who she wants to be and how she wants to be in her marriage. And so that's another place where money and the roles that we play are intersecting and causing us to reassess our positions in these relationships that have sort of assumed trajectories. And to get to the place where her piece is very interesting, to get to the place where she is kind of revisioning her idea of marriage, and to sort of breathe into the flow of what she's doing and what her partner is doing, and not feel sort of oppressed by this role in the way that she would have if she was looking at it through a traditional lens, which she had been carrying. So basically, all of the pieces in one way or another are asking people to excavate the myths that they're carrying about money and to really try to free themselves. A lot of people have said, well, what's so interesting about this book is it's not, make your budget and invest in this way. It's not that kind of book. It's the book that you read before you do that. It's the book that you read to understand what you are unconsciously thinking about money, so that you can rewrite that story, and then you can start to invest based on this awakened view that you're now holding, that you yourself have cultivated, as opposed to what has been brought to you, imposed upon you from the culture.
Women Talk Money is a bold anthology delving into how money profoundly affects women's lives. It contains essays by notable writers like the formidable author of The Colour Purple and Walker's own mother, Alice Walker, as well as sociologist and Professor Tressie McMillan Cottom. The collection unveils money's impact on health, relationships, and identity, and addresses topics from family dynamics centered around money to the challenges faced by transgender individuals. It advocates for open conversations to demystify money's role, offering a revelatory and resonant exploration of women's financial experiences. Walker explores, in the introduction, the hidden struggles and taboos surrounding women's experiences with money. Despite their integral role in economies, women's stories about money are often silenced. The book encourages collective action to empower women financially, even if it means challenging existing structures. Walker shares her own journey and highlights the transformative potential of sharing money stories. In Alice Walker's foreword, Counting My Eggs, she recounts her early experiences with money. She earned her first wages picking daffodils and saved diligently in the state of Georgia. Later, she used the money earned from selling eggs to pay for piano lessons. These experiences taught her the value of planning and understanding production. Her parents' financial habits and guidance led her to manage her own finances, enabling her independence and speaking her mind. Walker emphasizes the importance of financial education, ethical wealth accumulation, and women's independence. She suggests forming collectives for property ownership and advocating for a sustainable, self-determined future. She suggests it's crucial that women have shelter, for instance, listed in their names. Otherwise, they and their children can be held hostage, and they were for hundreds of years, during which only the man owned the house, as by marriage he owned his children. In the essay Only Ricos Have Credit by Daisy Hernandez, the author reflects on her experiences with money, class, and consumerism. Hernandez candidly shares her journey from working at McDonald's to accumulating credit card debt due to societal pressures. Through her story, she sheds light on the complexities of identity, aspiration, and financial struggles within a working-class immigrant family. Americana, a memoir of money by Victoria Patterson, provides a poignant exploration of the author's complex relationship with wealth, family, and identity. Patterson reflects on her upbringing in a wealthy family in Newport Beach, juxtaposing privilege with personal fulfillment. As she navigates marriage, financial challenges, and artistic pursuits, she delves into the contradictions of privilege and the pursuit of authenticity. Now let's turn our attention to poet Jen Hoffer's essay, where she reflects on her experiences as a foster parent. Through vulnerability and interconnectedness, Hoffer navigates the challenges and joys of nurturing relationships and the impact of financial constraints. Her narrative underscores the power of human connections in the face of inequality and systems of privilege. The Price of Air is a personal narrative by novelist Nina Revoy that chronicles her journey through a severe and escalating respiratory illness whilst living in LA. The story traces the origins of her illness, which may have been triggered by various factors such as air pollution, construction site exposure, and allergies. Revoy's struggle to find clean air, her attempts to manage her symptoms, and the physical and emotional toll of her illness are vividly portrayed. It also highlights the impact of pollution and chemicals on health, the privilege of access to medical care and healthier environments, and the disparities faced by low-income communities. Revoy's experience underscores the need for environmental justice and addresses the intersection of health, race, class, and air quality. Her recovery and improved health prompt her to advocate for better understanding and action in addressing these complex issues. Her writing highlights the intricate relationship between health and wealth, as those with financial stability have more options for seeking better living conditions. In 1986, New York Times bestselling author and activist Sonia Renee Taylor's mother gave her a $100 bill to buy Christmas gifts, unknowingly revealing her financial struggles. At 10 years old, the Body Is Not an Apology author faced shame and secrecy, understanding the family's lack of resources. The experience shaped her relationship with money, leading to adulthood struggles. Through healing work, she redefined her money beliefs, allowing herself to be cared for and building a fulfilling life. This transformation empowered her to create positive change and recognize money's neutral role. In her journey, she realized self-care and receiving care were not mutually exclusive. Voice actor Sam Riegel describes his online shopping habits, where they buy clothes that feel like missing pieces of their identity, hoping to bring change. However, after each purchase, they experience mixed emotions of satisfaction, dissatisfaction, and self-doubt. Riegel, who is transgender, had a dresser that overflowed with clothes that did not align with his reality. Yet in private, he found beauty and self-assurance, his body a statement of chaotic elegance. Writer and activist Adrienne Marie Brown reflects on her experiences as a war tax resistor, refusing to pay taxes that fund war and violence. She recounts moments of activism and personal struggle, detailing how her beliefs clashed with societal norms. She retraces her journey from a post-capitalist upbringing to becoming a tax resistor twice, despite facing financial hardships. The author highlights the importance of community support and the shift from valuing money to prioritizing love and cooperation as they strive to create a just and abundant world. Entrepreneur Jamie Wong embarked on a spiritual journey after a successful but unfulfilling career in Silicon Valley. She gave up her possessions to live in a Buddhist monastery in Nepal, seeking inner peace. However, her initial optimism gave way to depression and physical ailments due to her extreme pursuit of spiritual growth. Returning to the US, she reconciled with her past, allowing herself to engage with romance and work, embracing her own vulnerabilities. Through this process, Wong came to realize that true freedom and fulfillment were not in external pursuits, but in understanding and embracing her own nature, ultimately finding her path towards inner peace. In an interview with activist and author Rachel Cargill, she reflects on her relationship with money and its impact on her life. Growing up in a lower-income household, but surrounded by wealth, Cargill developed an understanding of money as a tool for opportunity and convenience. Over the years, her perception of money evolved, aiming for financial security and breaking cycles of financial struggle. She views money as a means to meet basic needs, support her values, and empower others. Cargill's fundraising initiatives like Therapy for Black Women and Girls Fund and Friend Care Friday highlight her commitment to meaningful connections and activism. While she educates white women, she emphasizes that her compensation is for her work, not reparations. Cargill's perspective on money informs her choices, including leaving Columbia University to pursue independent scholarship. This Isn't What I Came For, Testimony of an Ex-White Influencer, is a personal account by Lily Diamond, a former blogger and influencer, discussing her journey through the world of social media and the influencer industry. She addresses the challenges and contradictions, as well as the limitations of online space, where she built a brand around curated content and aspirational lifestyle, but found herself increasingly at odds with the demands of algorithm-driven platforms. Diamond reflects on the impact of her work, her decision to break away from the illusion of influencer culture, and her quest for a more authentic and honest way of engaging with her audience and her own values. In Money Wounds by Latham Thomas, the lifestyle guru reflects on her mother's experiences as a well-dressed black woman dealing with racial biases tied to money. She recounts an incident mentioned by Walker, where her mother, despite having a legitimate cashier's check, was mistreated by bank employees and police. This event highlighted how race and money are interconnected, shaping perceptions of worth and access. Thomas discusses her efforts to redefine wealth through building social currency, fostering supportive relationships, and addressing systemic economic disparities rooted in history. She emphasizes the need to dismantle white-centered economic structures and empower marginalized communities. Cracking Open Your Heart Without Breaking the Bank, Financial Tips for Single Mothers by Dr. Nancy McCabe explores the challenges of single motherhood, finance, and health. The author, a single mother who adopted a child, navigates financial struggles while providing a heartfelt and candid account of her experiences. Despite low wages and setbacks, she adopts a baby and later secures a tenure track university job. She emphasizes key financial tips including avoiding debt, saving for emergencies through getting a savings account with 3 months of living expenses, considering life insurance, planning for college expenses when your child is young, taking advantage of discounts, welcome windfalls even if it may come at a cost. You don't have to send your child to an elite school. Get your teen to get a summer job and open a savings account for them. If you live in a country where you have to pay huge sums for college or university, try to find different ways to save up through grants, loans, part-time jobs, etc. Take care of yourself while you're at it, as a little bit of financial stress is inevitable. And finally, teach your child to budget. The essay evolves as her daughter grows, faces health issues, enters college, and desires independence. The challenges of affording higher education and maintaining financial stability add to the mother-daughter dynamic. The story reflects the common tensions between parents and children, especially when dealing with financial concerns and pursuing dreams. In 2015, Sarah Fraser-Jones and her family engaged in correspondence with an unnamed college's Student Financial Services regarding her financial aid. The family's financial struggles and frustrations with the financial aid process were outlined in a series of emails. Sarah's mother, Helena, expressed concerns about the fairness and transparency of the financial aid program and how it impacted students like Sarah. The family's appeal for additional aid led to a review and an increase in Sarah's grant, though the issue of college affordability and the opacity of the financial aid process remained a central concern. Abacus by Neela Vaswani is a poignant essay that delves into the complex and emotional journey of being a caregiver for a loved one who is critically ill. As Walker mentioned, her partner had cancer. The essay centers around the author's experience of caring for her husband who is battling a life-threatening illness. Through vivid and introspective prose, Vaswani explores the waiting rooms of hospitals, the financial burdens of medical treatment, the transformation of roles within the relationship, and the deep emotional toll of the caregiving experience. The writer, who won a Grammy for voicing the I Am Malala book, navigates themes of love, sacrifice, gender roles, and the intricate calculations of care, capturing the author's profound reflections on the meaning of partnership and life. Royalties by Thérèse Marie Melhot is a personal essay that explores the author's experiences with money, loss, and the complex emotions associated with financial success. The author reflects on how money changed her life after the success of her book, allowing her to help friends and family, but not being able to save those she deeply cared for. The essay delves into themes of Native women's struggles, the impact of colonization, and the power of community and support. She uses her personal journey to examine the limitations of money in the face of profound loss and to highlight the importance of remembering the good amid pain. In the aftermath of becoming a widow twice, Mani Masuda delves into the financial challenges that accompany such loss. Navigating life insurance bills and the complexities of money management, she reflects on the overwhelming grief and the transition to becoming a single parent. Masuda emphasizes the importance of financial preparedness, learning from personal experiences to empower herself and others, finding strength amid adversity, and embracing the unexpected journey that widowhood brings. Her story highlights the resilience of women facing profound life changes. Come Fund Me is an autobiographical reflection by Porchester Kapoor, who I've had the pleasure of speaking to in episode 45 on her book Sick. She talks about having to crowdfund due to chronic illness. The author discusses her initial reluctance and eventual acceptance of seeking financial help online through platforms like GoFundMe. She shares the emotional turmoil of asking for assistance from both strangers and friends, highlighting the gratitude she felt for the support that allowed her to access medical treatment. The essay delves into the history of crowdfunding, touching on examples from the arts to medical needs, showcasing how this modern form of patronage has saved lives. Kapoor emphasizes the transformative power of storytelling and how it inspires collective action. In the essay Your Money, My Body by Sonali Rashatwa, the author reflects on their journey to financial and body autonomy. Raised in a strict South Asian family, money was used to control their body size, gender expression, and sexuality. The author describes herself as a super-fat, bisexual, non-binary individual, recalls their family's attempts to shape their body through diets and surgeries. Despite the family's intentions, they recognize the harm done. The essay discusses the intersection of financial independence, body image, and familial pressure. The author ultimately embraces their own identity and advocates against body image abuse, while striving for financial freedom. Cameron Russell is among the writers who reflects on her journey as a fashion supermodel and the ethical dilemmas she faces in the industry. She grapples with conflicting feelings of profiting from her appearance, while acknowledging the superficiality and inequalities within the fashion world. She explores the environmental and social impacts of fashion, the exploitation of workers, and her transition from feeling powerless to actively advocating for change within the industry through activism and organizing. Despite the complexities, she strives to balance paid work with meaningful efforts that align with her values and contribute to a more just and sustainable world. American writer, sociologist, and professor Tressie McMillan Cottom discusses the phenomenon of poor individuals making seemingly irrational decisions to purchase status symbols. She argues that such choices are often survival strategies and attempts to access better opportunities. Her essay highlights the complexities of societal judgments based on appearance, the unfairness of respectability expectations, and the difficulty of comprehending the choices made by the truly poor without experiencing poverty oneself. The author emphasizes that understanding these decisions requires a perspective shift, not from a not poor vantage point to that of being genuinely poor. Melissa Petra then recounts her journey from working various odd jobs in her teenage years to becoming a sex worker in Mexico due to financial constraints. She reflects on the societal attitudes and stereotypes surrounding sex work, particularly from a feminist perspective. The author discusses her experiences as a stripper and later as a call girl, highlighting the complex interplay between choice, necessity, and survival in the industry. Throughout her narrative, Petra challenges the stigmas associated with sex work and argues for a more nuanced understanding of the lives and motivations of those involved in the trade. Leah Hunt Hendricks reflects on her wealthy upbringing, describing the complexities of money in her family life. Her grandfather's oil fortune contrasted with her mother's dedication to the women's movement. Rejecting materialism, her parents sought a meaningful life. After encountering Occupy Wall Street, Leah pursued social change, co-founding Solidaire, a community of wealthy individuals supporting movements like Black Lives Matter. She emphasizes responsible philanthropy, potential to address societal inequalities, and promote genuine happiness through community engagement and impactful support for transformative causes. Sharks in the Banya is a personal essay by Gabrielle Bellot that delves into the complex experiences of a pre-op transgender woman. The essay explores the writer's emotions and challenges while navigating public spaces, changing rooms, and intimate moments as a transgender person. She also discusses the financial costs of transitioning, from hormone therapy to cosmetic procedures, and reflects on the profound impact of societal transphobia on mental health. The essay candidly conveys the author's struggles with dysphoria, the fear of misgendering, and the deep desire for societal acceptance, while highlighting the resilience that helps them find moments of ease despite the challenges. Inheritance by Rachel M. Harper narrates the author's connection to a modest lake house in Minnesota and the profound impact of its loss. The cabin symbolized family, security, and creative freedom. When the author's parents sold it, their safety net disappeared. Despite the heartbreak, the author found strength through life's struggles. Understanding true inheritance was the memories and lessons shared, embracing newfound courage. In What My Mother Taught Me by Helen Zia, the journalist reflects on the lessons she learned about money from her immigrant mother. Despite language barriers and a limited education, her mother's actions spoke volumes. The mother's meticulous budgeting, careful shopping, and emphasis on honest earnings shaped the author's understanding of money's value. Immersed in a family business, the author absorbed the importance of hard work and financial responsibility. Her mother's path to independence and frugality demonstrated that women could be self-sufficient. Ultimately, the author credits her mother's examples for instilling qualities of security, independence, and empowerment in her own life. In the essay, The Kind of Money That Can Change Your Life by Mandy-Len Catron, the author reflects on the life and choices of her grandmother, Lucy, and how they shaped her own path. Lucy, widowed young with 4 children, made sacrifices to provide for her family. The author navigates her journey as a writer who received a substantial book advance, changing her financial circumstances. She examines the privilege and opportunities that contributed to her success, underscoring how various factors from education to family support play into the pursuit of dreams. Catron advocates for open discussions about money and its connection to privilege and inequality, while honouring her grandmother's legacy. And finally, How to Make a Lot of Money by Tracy McMillan, the television writer shares her transformative journey from financial struggle to abundance. Introduced to a financial planner who changed her perspective, McMillan learned crucial truths about money. It's abundant, making money requires creative action, changing limiting beliefs is key. Trauma can affect financial outlook. Mindset shifts are essential. Energy attracts money. Saying yes matters. Taking up space is crucial. Self-love is vital. And sharing knowledge empowers others. By altering her relationship with money, McMillan transitioned from scarcity to sufficiency, helping readers recognize that financial well-being is attainable and that self-care and empowerment are central to this process. Our final book is from Tori Dunlap, who is a financial author, podcast host, and international speaker on topics of wealth, building, and finance for women. Financial Feminist, Overcome the Patriarchy's Bullshit to Master Your Money and Build a Life You Love, debunks the money myths and exposes the systemic oppression that keeps many stuck in toxic jobs or cycles of debt. Here she is speaking to ABC News.
One of the narratives we talk about all the time is that we feel like talking about money is taboo, and we're here to debunk that. So I'm happy to talk about it. Yeah, so we've helped over, like the segment said, 3 million women negotiate salary and pay off debt and start saving. And that started with my own journey to save $100K at 25. So I'm 28 now, but back in the day, a couple of years ago, I was really diligent about automating my savings, setting up an automatic transfer from my checking account to my savings account. I really figured out what sort of values I had and where I wanted my money to reflect those values. I also negotiated my salary every time I got a new job. And her first 100K, which is now this multi-million-dollar business and 15 team members and a lot of growth, actually started as a side hustle. So when I was saving a portion of my 9-to-5 paycheck, I was also saving my side hustle income too. Financial feminism is this idea that when you're financially taken care of, you have choices, you have options. And in a society and in a system that constantly bars marginalized groups from having those options and choices, having a financial foundation is our best form of protest. And so it's this idea of like putting your oxygen mask on first. If you are able to take care of yourself financially, if you're able to pay off debt and save money and progress towards your goals, then you can also start changing the world for everybody else. Well, this is the classic example, right? That the personal finance equation for so long has been 100% your personal choices, right? If you're not able to build wealth, you're not able to get rich, it's somehow your fault. And I would argue that 20% are personal choices, about 80% of these circumstances and these, systemic barriers. And the perfect example is the pay gap. One of the things that you can do as a woman to start closing this pay gap as an individual is negotiate your salary. The vast majority of employers actually expect you to negotiate your salary. And so they're purposely offering you less than they're willing to pay you or they're budgeting to pay you because they expect you to negotiate. The other thing is that I think we often get pulled into this trap of like loyalty is we think loyalty will pay off. And the truth is if you're in a situation that's no longer serving you, just like an employer would terminate you or cut your hours, you can have the same sort of ruthlessness where if things aren't working out for you, do what you can to find something better.
Realities like the pay gap, the so-called mummy track and pink tax, predatory lending and neighborhood redlining can cost people of color, women, people with disabilities, and LGBTQ plus communities over $1 million of personal wealth in a lifetime. She says your personal wealth is a feminist issue because systems of oppression continue when individuals are too stressed out to change them. According to Dunlap, people's perceptions of money were formed by the time they are 7 years old. Before anyone ever opened their first account or swiped their first card, they had already formed attitudes and emotions around finance. If you grew up hearing your parents fight over bills every night, or watched them balance the checkbook together each week, those early experiences impacted you. No one is born knowing how to money. It is something that takes education and practice. Men and women often receive very different kinds of financial education too. Boys are often taught about building wealth through investments, real estate, or entrepreneurship. Financial education for girls, however, is usually limited to managing a household budget, clipping coupons, and cutting spending. Society also compounds the problem by shaming those who get into debt, who don't save or can't afford a house down payment for all that avocado toast, as if everyone is in control of their situation with no sudden emergencies, natural disasters, racism, ableism, nor homophobia, as if everyone has equal access to things like healthcare, childcare, and education. In the US, women graduates end up with more student debt than their male counterparts, and the disparity is even larger for women of colour, as they make lower wages and are the targets of more predatory lending. As a result, this financial shaming amounts to gaslighting. Women couldn't even have their own credit cards until 1974, or get a business loan in their name until a decade later. So she says the first step toward building personal wealth is to check in with your emotions around money and see how you can be more mindful of their impact on you. You might have absorbed negative messages around your self-worth. Confronting these emotions and processing them is a step in the right direction. This first step, confronting your emotions, will help you be more confident with money. And confidence is important. It can give you the courage to seek a better job, get more education, or call your creditors to negotiate a lower interest rate. Next, you need to check in with your financial life. Running away from the reality of money makes it impossible to make a plan to achieve your goals. What you need for this check-in is to know what's going on, and how much is coming in, and how much is going out, and where it's going. First, gather information about your income, your savings, and your debt. If your income is irregular from freelance or commission work, you will need several months of information to get your average income. Be sure to make your plan based on the lowest amount you'll make in a month. As mentioned in the previous book in one of the essays, if you don't have an emergency fund saved with 3 months of living expenses, write that down, because this fund is vital for your present well-being. If you aren't saving for retirement, note that too. High-interest debt, anything above the 7% average stock market return, should be separated from low-interest debt, like mortgages. Remember not to judge yourself for any of this as you go. Next, you'll need some information about your spending. While financial feminism isn't about deprivation, it's helpful to know where your money goes so you can cut in areas that matter less. For many, the easiest way to find this out is to track it. Using your bank or other online tools, you can categorize and track your spending as you go. You won't have to do this indefinitely. Just tracking several months in a row may be enough information to work with. Choosing 3 goals as your next step means you'll make faster progress toward each goal. And nothing is more motivating than seeing progress. Don't set a new goal until you finish one of these 3. If you're currently living without savings, an emergency fund should be the first goal. Make your 3 goals as specific as you can. Set a time frame to get them done, and include how they'll make you feel once you've accomplished them. Dunlap says a great trick at this stage is to state your goals in the past tense, like, I saved $5,000 this year for my emergency fund and felt much less stressed, or I paid off my credit cards in 7 months and no longer dread getting the mail. It might feel a bit strange, but by stating these goals in the past tense, you're signaling to your unconscious mind that you are capable and willing to meet the challenge. It's easy to get lost looking at the whole picture and get discouraged, so divide up larger goals into monthly steps and track those as you go. It can help to think of what each goal represents too, so set your goals with your own well-being and happiness in mind. It's now time to make the plan that will guide your spending from here on out. By setting up 3 categories for monthly spending that takes into account your needs, goals, and priorities, you'll avoid putting all your eggs in one basket. The first basket is your expenses. This is the basket where you put the money that covers the costs of sustaining life. Your housing, food, transportation, utilities, insurance, and such. The monthly outgoings that keep the lights on and the belly full. The second basket represents your goals. These look different for everyone else since your goals are personal and unique. In general, this basket is a concrete investment in your future. The author says it's helpful to set priorities for these. The third basket represents spending for all of the fun stuff. This too will vary for everyone, but in general this covers the spending that isn't life-sustaining, just makes life worth living. When deciding on numbers for each basket, a good place to start is the 50-20-30 rule. This means 50% of your income toward expenses, 20% towards your goals, and 30% for all the rest. It's possible that your situation is different though, so adjust accordingly. Priorities for your second basket should be an emergency fund, she says. The magic of a fund that can sustain you in life's uncertain journey is that it builds confidence and stability. Keeping a portion in a high-yield savings account means it will grow a bit faster too. It can be an automated monthly transfer into savings and forget it while it grows. The next priority is paying off high-interest debt like credit cards, personal loans, anything above 7%. Given growth in the stock market averages 7% in the long term, when you're paying more for interest, you're simply lining someone else's pockets. Priority 3 should be investing in your retirement while paying off lower interest debt. Paying yourself for your retirement means you'll have more time for that money to grow through the magic of compounding interests. It's difficult to plan for retirement early because there's no end in sight, but making it a priority means that it won't get lost in the shuffle. The final priority is the other big life stuff, like down payments on a house, startup funds for your business, or that once-in-a-lifetime trek to Machu Picchu. When you fill your second basket or decide how much to dedicate to this category, following these priorities will pay dividends you might not have anticipated. The reason why emergency savings are on the top of the list is that it's actually a feminist issue. The wage gap is real, and people can challenge that far more easily knowing they can walk away from any workplace and be okay while they find a better position. Just having concrete goals and a plan can give you the motivation to take other steps that bring you closer to that goal too. Calling your high-interest credit card accounts and negotiating a lower interest rate is possible with confidence and might save you hundreds over time. Taking control of your financial life and goals will help you value your time, grow your self-worth, and give you the confidence to invest in things that matter to you. It doesn't just give you the power to walk away from things that don't serve you, but also the power to move to help build a better world. Dunlap believes that having goals, priorities, and a plan that serves your own well-being first and gives you the freedom and the power to change the world, choosing to invest your current spending in local businesses or artisans can grow with time into capital investments in the issues, organizations, and companies that reflect your values. In micro-lending programs, where as little as $60 are invested in a person to start a local business, women who are granted loans are by far the most reliable in terms of repayment and deliver significantly more returns on investment, which benefit both the program and the community. Once your savings are secure, your retirement and big life savings are underway, make investments a priority, but to secure your own future and the future of others. Just putting a fixed amount of money regularly in an index fund and leaving it there for a decade can mean the difference between retiring someday and retiring early in style. You can dedicate that investment towards supporting the people and causes that matter to you too. A little research can turn up funds to invest in the environment, economic equality, or minority-owned businesses. As a financial feminist of any gender, when you're secure enough in your own future to grow causes or businesses that align with your values, everyone wins. So to sum up, in Women Talk Money, edited by Walker, she writes that until women begin to talk freely about money, to amass information about money, to reflect critically on how money works in our society, and strategize how to change it, until we put as much thought into negotiating our money as we do into maintaining our relationships, plotting our careers, or raising our children, we are at an even greater risk of remaining victims of a predatory financial system. Our contributions will continue to be unrecognized and undervalued, and our compensation will continue to pale in comparison to our male counterparts. We will remain ignorant where we should be informed, silent where we should be loud, and weak where we must be strong. Dunlap says in Financial Feminist that money can't buy happiness, but it buys the freedom, choice, and security that means a happier life. Facing your financial emotions and reality, setting goals and priorities, and adjusting as you go can relieve stress and fear in the short term and build a life you love over time. Your success isn't selfish either. It gives you the power to help build a more equal, fair, and just world for everyone. She recommends tracking your emotions while spending. There's no doubt that talking about money is still a taboo, and even more so for women who've had little agency in history. Women's Pay Day, the day when the average woman starts working for free compared to their average man, is around 2 months before the year ends. It's hardly surprising many women aren't talking about it, when we get so little in the first place. In my household, growing up, conversations around money usually surrounded saving, given we had so little. Please join in on the conversation by following @HowToBe247 on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and subscribe on the podcast, which can be found via www.howtobe247.com. Please do leave a review if you found this helpful and you wanted to be featured. Remember to check out Patreon for exclusive, unseen bonus material from every single interview, all for the price of a coffee. And don't forget to check out the website. We've got so many articles about a number of subjects, and we've been interviewing so many other people on really important matters, including book banning that's happening right across the US. Before we go, here is Jay, who runs yorkshirefinances.co.uk, on his thoughts. See you in 2 weeks' time.
Talking with people about money is massively awkward. Even for me as a personal finance blogger, sharing details about my net worth and spending habits I try to keep myself anonymous to avoid potentially hurting the feelings of anyone close to me. It seems especially taboo to discuss income, perhaps because people are so tied up in the idea of being worth a certain amount. But the funny thing is, the more you talk about money with people, the more you normalize it as a topic for open discussion, the better people's financial outcomes get. After just under a year of talking with a colleague about everything from salary to retirement savings, he'd secured himself a raise, tracked down his different pension pots from previous jobs, done some proper budgeting, and even started investing into an index tracker regularly. None of that happens until someone's willing to break the social taboo around discussing money.